Hey everyone, Richard Norris here, and in today's video I want to talk to you about my honest review of what it's been like living in Dubai for the last year. So for those of you who don't know, I moved to Dubai back in November 2022. I'm originally from Oxford. I lived in the UK in Oxford all my life for 32 years, and eventually I kind of took the plunge and had the courage to make the full transition from being a UK resident and moving to Dubai. And one of the main reasons for doing so was that, frankly, like I just fallen out of love with the UK, like first and foremost. Like, I didn't find it the most desirable place to live in terms of weather, in terms of culture, in terms of positivity. To be honest, I really felt like, especially in like the last few years of living in the UK, there was quite a depressing place. There's lots of negativity. Everything that you heard on the news was all doom and gloom. And kind of, I was just getting sucked into this whole kind of paradigm of like, just negativity. And it didn't really serve my purpose as an entrepreneur. I wanted to be in an environment of like-minded people. I wanted to surround myself in a more positive and uplifting culture where people were kind of supporting you and rooting for you. And unfortunately, I just don't feel like the UK could offer that anymore. But one of the main reasons that I moved to Dubai, which is probably the same for most people, is obviously Dubai is a tax haven, particularly for wealthy individuals, for business owners, for entrepreneurs. If you're running online businesses, then Dubai is a great place to live, not only because of the culture, but because of the taxes. And so that was really the main motivation for moving in the first place, was to come to a tax haven that was really more incentivizing for the work that I was doing and more rewarding for the work I was doing as an entrepreneur. I just didn't feel that the UK environment was conducive, and I didn't feel like it was set up for entrepreneurs. And I still don't think it is today. I actually think that you're penalized if you earn well in the UK, which disincentivizes you to run a business and grow a business in the UK. And that was my main motivation for leaving. But with that being said, like, I moved to Dubai back in November 2022. So one of the first things that I want to talk to you about is like accommodation in Dubai. Like, a lot of my clients, like I help people to grow property portfolios, and I help them to invest their money into real estate. And a lot of my clients ask me like, what's the accommodation? What's it like living in Dubai? What's the cost of living in Dubai? And all of these things. So I thought I'd create a video on that. And the big topic is all about accommodation. So first and foremost, like, what is it like renting in Dubai? And, what is the accommodation like here? And what are the prices and all of those things? So when I came to Dubai in November 22, originally I based myself out of the St. Regis Hotel on the Palm Jumeirah. Lovely hotel, staff were amazing, great place. I was paying around 10 to 12,000 pounds per month, and typically like that was from peak season. So from like November all the way through to sort of up until April, you pay peak season prices, which is about 10,000 to 12,000 pounds per month, which is about 40,000 to 45,000 dirhams a month, right? That's what I was paying during those peak months. And then like during May to September, where the climate kind of gets really hot in Dubai and most people kind of leave, Dubai becomes quiet, and obviously that's their low season. And the accommodation fees for the hotel dropped to around £6,000 per month, around sort of 25,000 dirhams a month, which is not too bad. So like that's where I based myself first and foremost. And whilst it was quite expensive, like 10 to 12,000 pounds a month living in a hotel, like the reason I did that was because like I was making the transition from the UK. I'd never been to Dubai before, but frankly, I knew that I needed to go because of purely saving taxes is the main motivation here. So I wasn't too concerned whether I would like it, love it, not like it. I was prepared to do whatever it took just to kind of reduce my taxes, because the tax bills that I was paying in the UK were kind of seven figures, which was, when they get to that level, it starts to hurt. And like I said, when you're paying up to 90% in tax, which I'll explain to you as we go through this video, it just disincentivizes you. So I wasn't really too concerned or pragmatic about living in Dubai and making sure that Dubai was a place where I wanted to be as a desirable location. I kind of put that as a secondary to the back burner, and I was prepared to do whatever it took just to kind of solve my tax problem. So that's why I decided to live in the hotel initially, because I wasn't sure whether I was going to stay in Dubai, whether I needed to stay in Dubai. So as I was kind of transitioning and working everything out, that's why I decided to stay in a hotel and I didn't rent. But then come sort of like August of 2023, I decided that I was going to stay in Dubai. I was loving Dubai. I really love it here. I'm going to explain why as I go through this video today. And I was going to say that basically it's definitely a place where I'm going to be longer term, and I'm going to base myself for the reasons I'm going to explain. But once I had decided and made up my mind that I was going to be here for an extended period of time, what I decided to do was obviously rent. Now, my experience of renting in Dubai so far has been really good. I live in the Palm Jumeirah, and I moved to a place called the Palm Tower, which is effectively the St. Regis Residences. And one of the main reasons why I moved into this apartment is because it is a high-end luxury apartment. The views that I have are amazing. I have a corner unit. I overlook all of the Palm Jumeirah, the sunset, Emaar Beachfront, and Burj Al Arab. So it is quite a spectacular unit, and I'm really grateful to be in a position to be able to live like that. But the thing is, and the reason I'm telling you this is because the reason why I decided to take one of these large corner units here, by the way, my apartment's about 1,200 square foot, so it is big. Hopefully, like you'll see as you go through this video, there'll be some images hopefully coming up now as you scroll through of like my apartment, so you can kind of get a size, a feel for the location and the views that I see on a daily basis. But that kind of like one of the reasons why I took the unit in the first place, because it inspires me to do better work. Living in a place that inspires you to do work and to be disciplined and focused and just like this uplifting and positive, like you can get your best work done. And like I used to work with Sam Ovens. Some of you may know him. He grew consulting.com. He's now the founder of School. But when I was working with Sam back in 2018 till 2023, one of the things that Sam said was, as soon as you can afford to, like, make sure that you live in an inspiring place to live. Like, and obviously for those of you who know Sam, if you're in the info space, if you're in the online world, you know that he lived in a penthouse in New York and had those incredible views. So that was basically cemented in my mind. Like, that was the first milestone. Once I get to a point where it makes sense and I can afford to kind of have an expensive living cost, then it makes sense to do that, because that's where I work from and it inspires me, and like I say, it motivates me to do better work. So whilst most people might see like high rent as like a liability, I actually see it as my greatest asset, because it's a place that I actually get a significant exponential return on my investment, because I'm inspired to do my best work. I wake up every day looking at the views, like the views behind me as well, where I'm recording this video from right now. Like, this is my office, and just having that feeling of wealth, of luxury, you know, it's uplifting, it's inspiring, it's positive. It's all of the acronyms that you would use to basically describe what's needed or what helps you to achieve the goals that you have. And obviously motivation and discipline being two of the biggest things that are going to help you to move the needle, because no one's going to do the work for you. Putting your place in an environment where is conducive to that obviously helps. So that's why I chose to live in a place like this and pay the high rents that I'm paying. But with that being said, and without kind of digressing too much, what is the cost of the accommodation that I have at the moment in Dubai, in the Palm Jumeirah where I live? So for this unit, I pay 276,000 dirhams a year in rent, which is around about £5,000 a month, okay? And that's just for the rent alone. Now, if you're renting in Dubai, you typically pay something called DEWA, which is the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. And as a tenant here in Dubai, under a 12-month tenancy agreement, a bit like the UK, you would be responsible for paying those bills. However, I was able to negotiate a contract and a tenancy agreement with the landlord where actually he pays all the bills for me, and therefore I don't have that cost as well. So, you know, the first thing I want to say to you is, like, yes, there are certain things that are standard, but in Dubai, everything is negotiable. So if you're coming here and you're looking to rent an apartment and looking to live in Dubai, then you can negotiate, okay? So now, I don't just pay rent. On top of my rent, I have to pay management fees. So in Dubai, it's typical that the tenant actually pays the management fee and not the landlord. Okay, they pay the letting agent fee. So I know in the UK, obviously I'm a real estate investor in the UK, as you all know. So if you're a property investor in the UK as well, you'll know that if you're hiring a management agent, then you pay sort of 10 to 12% of your gross rental income for letting out your apartment, and that's your cost. But in Dubai, it works different. You as the tenant actually pay. So in this position where I am the tenant, I'm paying a management fee, which is 1,000 dirhams a month, which is about £215 a month, roughly, that I pay for management. Then on top of that, I pay for cleaning every week. So every week I have a maid, comes and does the cleaning, does the linen changeover, and I pay 180 dirhams each time for a 2-hour clean. And obviously I have that once per week. So that roughly adds up to about £155 per month. And then the last thing that I pay for is laundry. So again, for those of you watching this video, like thinking, why does he not do his own laundry? Or why is he outsourcing everything? Why has he got a cleaner? Why has he got a maid? And you're about to understand that I don't cook or anything like that. I get my meals prepared for me. Like, why am I doing that? Again, because that's one of my highest ROI activities. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, I just want to focus on the things that nobody else can do in the business that are going to move the needle and move the top line to my company and grow it. Right? And so if you're working 10 to 15 hours a day, laser focused on your business, you honestly don't have time for other things like cleaning, prepping food, making food, doing your laundry. They're like the worst things you can do as a business owner because they're the lowest ROI activities. Like it's a huge expenditure in time for no profit back. So we tend to outsource those. And again, like these are business lessons that I've developed and learned over time to get me to the point where I am today. So if you're a business owner, if you're somebody looking to grow your real estate portfolio, looking to grow any business, I would encourage you at your earliest point where you can afford to do so, just to outsource all of your like errands on a daily basis. Your cleaning, your cooking, hire a chef, etc. Like all of those things, like get someone to do your laundry. Like it's going to be the best investment that you can make on time and money, right? So in terms of my laundry, I do pay £300 to £500 per month for laundry. So the laundry services here in the Palm Tower, because the St. Regis Hotel do it for us, it is quite expensive. But with that being said as well, like I train a lot as well. So I train 6 days a week. So I do change my clothes like 2 or 3 times a day. So I might have more laundry than say the average person that doesn't train every day, right? Because I'm training, obviously, I'm changing quite frequently. So my laundry bill is quite high. But if you add all of those things up, my rent at £5,000 a month, my management fee of £215 a month, my maid and cleaning plus the linen change works out to £155 per month. The laundry at £500 per month. If you add all of those up, you're coming to £5,870 per month, which is effectively like, call it 70 to 72,000 pounds a year just on basic living expenses, without obviously the cost of food and cost of fuel and all of those things. So renting in Dubai can be expensive, as you've seen. Now the thing is, like, renting in Dubai is expensive if you go for prime location. So obviously I'm in the Palm, which is probably one of the most expensive places in Dubai anyway. So what I'm giving you here, like 72,000 a year, including all of the things that I've just aforementioned, like for a 1-bed apartment, yes, it's very expensive, but it's because it's prime property in a prime location with amazing views. So that's like the top end that you're going to pay. You can actually pay more than that, to be fair. Like if you went to the Royal Atlantis, I don't think they do 1-beds there. I think that they start at 2 beds. But like the rent per year there, like you're going to pay up to like maybe $1 million dirhams a year, which is about 250,000 a year. So you can like really in Dubai, you can like rent places that are truly outstanding and out of this world and super luxurious, but you're going to pay the price, and that's sort of the premiums that you're going to pay. With that being said, for those of like to give like a general and a fair kind of overview of Dubai and the accommodation and living costs, if you live in prime location, like for example, like I said, like the Palm, say for example the Marina, which is a little bit cheaper, but I would still say that Marina is still a prime location in Dubai, albeit it's definitely one of the cheaper locations as well when you're talking about prime property. JBR, Jumeirah Beach, and Blue Water Island, all of those places you're going to be paying about 300,000 dirhams a year on average for a 1-bed apartment, okay? Which is about, like I said, between 60 and 75,000 per year when you break it down on the currency conversion from dirhams to pounds. So it is expensive, but then if you want to live like inland or you're living in Dubai on a budget, you can also do that as well. And you can go to places like Meydan or Business Bay, and you can rent like a 1-bed for like 90,000 dirhams a year, which is about 20,000. Right? And then you have your bills and other expenses on top and the DWA that you're supposed to pay. So that's kind of like gives you a spectrum. Like you can rent for like 20,000 a year all the way up to, like I said, like 250,000 a year, depending on where you live. But I think you'd struggle to find anything decent for less than 20,000 a year if you're thinking of moving to Dubai. And like I say, if you do move to Dubai and you are living on a budget, then you're going to be sort of in those places where like Meydan and Business Bay, which is inland Dubai, which is away from the prime location. And it'll probably take you about 30 to 40 minutes to get into like the Marina, into the Palm Jumeirah, where all the beaches are and stuff. Okay, so it's kind of like the price you pay for living out of prime location. Now, like one of the things is like, how does like the renting structure work in Dubai? So it's very different to the UK. So typically one of the disadvantages I think of renting in Dubai is, typically speaking, you have to pay a year's rent up front, which as a business owner isn't amazing for cash flow, right? Even if you have loads of cash and you're fully liquid, like just paying a whole year of rent up front and committing to a whole year of rental payments in one check is expensive, and like it will drain your financial resources. It's not good for cash flow. So that is like the general consensus. It's usually one check, or sometimes they break it into 2 checks, or the best I've seen is 4 checks. However, with that being said, like I said, my personal circumstances, everything is negotiable. And so I actually negotiated a monthly rent. I paid a slightly premium for that, because usually if you pay in one check, they'll give it you cheaper because they'll want to incentivize cash up front. But what you can do is you can do 12 checks, and you can put the checks down as security. You pay 1 month as a security deposit, and then I pay monthly. And the beauty of that is I use something called an Emirates MBD Skywards card. And that basically means that my rent goes through the card every single month, and I'm collecting Emirates Skyward miles that I can exchange for business and first class flights. And if you build up your points enough, then effectively you can basically start flying around the world for free. Like honestly, like I've used my Emirates MBD Skywards card so many times to fly business class, and I've not paid for that at all. Right, so that's a huge advantage if you can negotiate that here, and you've got like a banking infrastructure where you're using like Emirates MBD, and you can negotiate monthly. Like you can pay your rent monthly through the card. That's like a really good thing to do. So I'd encourage or advise that if you are coming to Dubai, then that's something that I would recommend if I was to do this all over again, like a consideration that I would suggest is a good thing to do. So now let's get on to like the cost of living. Okay, so like overall the cost in living in Dubai, like it's not that disproportionate, right? Most people will say that Dubai is an expensive place to live, and it is definitely more expensive than living in the UK. However, like when you break down the amount of tax you save versus the cost of living in the UK and paying more money to live in Dubai, like you're still like a massive advantage, right? Depending on your personal circumstances, this will really depend. But if you've done really well as a business owner, and like the main reason that you're moving to Dubai is because you want to get a tax break because you're paying too much taxes and your tax bills are like 6-7 figures a year, then like coming to Dubai, like you're really going to benefit from the tax system, and so the cost of living is actually going to seem very cheap, right? So to give you an idea, like I kind of just thought I would share my personal expenses of like typical costs that I spend on a daily basis to live in Dubai. So here it goes. So typically speaking, like for example, like I eat out, like just get this out of the way. Like one of the things that I do is I eat out all of the time, right? I don't cook, like I said. I either order food in from a service called Talabat, which is like a delivery service, or I eat out. And the reason I do that is because everything is so accessible in Dubai. And at the same time, like I said, I want to focus my highest ROI activities on running the business on a daily basis. And I tend to work honestly between 10 to 15 hours a day of intense focused work. So like for me, like trying to prepare food, especially when like I'm on like a strict diet, because I do train a lot, I go to the gym a lot. So I eat like at least 4 to 5 times a day, and I eat really healthy kind of regimented food, then like it's just easy for me. Okay, so you have to bear that in mind when I'm talking about these costs. But like for example, there's a place called Nikhil Mall, which is downstairs from where I live in the Palm Tower here, and like if I go there in the morning, I get like 8 eggs, oatmeal, and a black coffee. That will cost me 117 dirhams for that, which is about 25 pounds, which yeah is a little bit more pricey than the UK probably. But then like for example, like sometimes I go to Waitrose, and if I go to Waitrose and I'll get like a chicken and rice, I'm paying 50 dirhams for chicken and rice, which is like, you know, 10 to 11 pounds, right? And again, if you order like chicken and rice from the Talabat delivery service, there's a food place called, I think it's called Live a Better Life or Live a Healthier Life. I order food from there because again, it's like all the gym type food. It breaks down all the macros for you. So if you're somebody that is moving to Dubai and you're into the gym as well and into working out and training and fitness and stuff and optimizing your health, then this place is a good place to order from on the Talabat app. It comes straight to your door within 30 to 40 minutes. It will arrive, and it's 47 dirhams for chicken and rice, right? Which is again, it's like 9-10 pounds. So again, it's like not hugely expensive. When you compare that to the UK, it's probably like on par, like a similar price. But then obviously you get all the tax benefits of living in Dubai. And that's one of the main reasons why I said like the cost of living in Dubai isn't actually that bad when it comes to like food and stuff. Yes, maybe it's slightly more expensive than the UK for food, but like not massively disproportionate. Okay. Then like the other thing, like I would say, is like coffee. Like there's a place which I go to, which is called Boon and Roasters, downstairs again in the Nikhil Mall. And the coffee there is amazing, by the way. So if you're ever in Dubai, check it out. It's called Boon and Roasters. They do the best coffee ever. And you pay like 25 dirhams for a flat white, which is about, you know, £5.50. Okay, so again, slightly more expensive than the UK maybe, but not hugely more expensive, which would, you know, warrant it being significantly more expensive than living in the UK. Again, like I said, with the tax benefits that you get, actually feels quite cheap to live here. So typically speaking, like I spend like on a normal daily basis, bearing in mind, like I said, I eat like 4 to 5 times a day with protein shakes and stuff. I'm spending about £75 to £100 per day, which, you know, is about £3,000 for food. And like I told you, my monthly expenditure on rent, management fees, laundry, linen change, cleaning, all of those things comes to about 6,000. So I'm spending like £9,000 a month to live in Dubai on a daily basis of just basic living expenses, which doesn't include transportation, cost of fuel, and all those things. Time you put cost of fuel, transportation, etc., which we'll get onto, because transport's actually very cheap and fuel is very cheap as well. I reckon you're probably around 10,000–11,000 a month is what I spend living in Dubai, just to live kind of a relatively simple life and focus on work without too many distractions. We'll talk about the distractions in Dubai in a second. But if you're somebody who's like coming here for work, you're introverted like myself, you want to be away from the noise, and away from the distractions, and you kind of just want to do your best work, then you can probably budget anywhere between 3,000 to 12,000 pounds a month, depending on where you live. Like 3,000, you could probably do it as a month as like the cheapest if you lived in Meydan. If you want to live in prime location, time you put food and everything on top, like you're probably looking at about 12,000 pounds a month, which is about roughly where I am for my monthly living expenses. Okay, so with that being said, like as well, like you can spend a lot of money, and there are places in Dubai where you can go where food is expensive. So like you have all of these like super luxurious restaurants. Like this weekend just gone, I went to like Nusret, and I brought a golden burger, and I paid 760 dirhams just for the burger, which is like 163 pounds. So again, like everything is subjective. A bit like anywhere in the world, you can go to restaurants and eat at budget, or you can go to restaurants and eat extravagantly, and again, the costs are going to be proportionate. But hopefully that gives you kind of a sense of the general cost of living in Dubai on a daily basis for accommodation and food and things like that. So now the next thing I wanted to talk about really is fuel. Like fuel is super cheap in Dubai. Like for petrol, the average price of petrol right now is about 2.85 dirhams per litre, which is like 61 pence per litre. And in the UK, you're paying like £1.44 per litre for petrol, right? So like fuel is like almost 50% to 60% cheaper. So that's to be considered as well into your factors of like, is Dubai an expensive place to live? The thing is as well, like I've just been skiing in St. Maurice over Christmas, and like if anything, that made Dubai seems super cheap. Like I spent £31 for a bowl of soup, £19 to have oatmeal, and the taxi drive from Zurich to St. Maurice, which is about a 3-hour drive. It was a Mercedes Vitro. We had lots of luggage and stuff, so we needed the bigger car. But all that being said, like a 3-hour drive was £1,350. So when you kind of like add up all of those things, like St. Maurice is significantly more expensive to live than a place like Dubai. So from my experience of the world, from my opinion of living in Dubai, like Dubai isn't actually that expensive to live. And again, especially when you consider the amount of tax savings that we're making by being here, it's actually, I would say that it's a cheap place to live when you kind of look at the whole picture. If you just to isolate, I would say yes, it's more expensive than the UK. Cost of living and cost of accommodation and the rent is significantly more expensive than the UK, I'd say. But again, like I said, putting everything into consideration, balancing it up against the tax savings, it's actually a pretty cheap place to live. Now, with that being said, like I wouldn't encourage you to come to Dubai and do it on a budget, because I know a few people who have done that and kind of Dubai's kind of eaten up their money. And it's not been the easiest place to live. They've not had the best experience, and they've had to go back to reside in the UK again. But if you're somebody who has a significant tax problem, you earn well, then Dubai is a decent place and you won't find it too expensive. And actually, it should feel relatively cheap if you're making that move for the right reasons, i.e. you're moving as a business owner because you're saving taxes. If you're moving for other reasons, which might be better reasons for you, like climate, culture, etc., fine, but you'll probably find Dubai expensive if you haven't got significant tax savings. So with that being said, like the next thing I want to talk about is like banking in Dubai. Now, this is an interesting conversation. So what is my experience of banking in the UAE? Well, on a personal side, for like personal banking, it's actually been super great, super simple to set up. And within 24 hours, I went into the branch. Within 2 hours, the personal banking was set up, and within 24 to 48 hours, I got my card and my checkbook and everything. And it was super easy. A very simple process for personal banking, and I bank with Emirates MBD. In terms of personal banking on the other side, I've also had a bad experience, unfortunately, recently with FAB, which is FAB, First Abu Dhabi Bank, and they had this savings, which is promoting like 5.5%. So I was like, okay, like let's go and set up a FAB personal account. And this is like recently as well. So this was like after over a year of being here, with over a year of accounts and everything. And I was like, I want to move like significant amount of money. And again, just being honest, it was 7 figures of cash I wanted to put into First Abu Dhabi Bank to get the 5.5% interest. And it was just a nightmare, to be honest. And I still, after 4 months, I still don't have my bank account approved. I have it set up, but I don't have it approved. And that's largely because, like, I put down, like, I was a real estate investor, I own real estate in holdings, and I own a company. And for whatever reason, that kind of triggered a more onerous due diligence process within the bank. And I was like, hey guys, this isn't me setting up a business bank. Like, I've already got a business bank with Emirates MBD. I just want to open up a personal savings account and I want to bring you 7 figures of cash. It should be a relatively straightforward and simple process. And for me personally, it just hasn't been. And one of the things I want to allude to, like one of my frustrations of living in Dubai, to be honest, is, like, no disrespect, but a lot of the people that work in these banking institutions or even that serve you in the hospitality industry, they do come from kind of lower, poorer countries. And it's not their fault. They just haven't had access to the same education system as other more wealthier countries. And, as a result, that kind of shows sometimes in the way that they deal with things. You have to be a bit more patient. You have to be a bit more considerate, because at the end of the day, it is frustrating sometimes when you're dealing with people and things that are logical and simple that we take for granted just don't happen, and everything takes longer. Like, for example, I had a conversation over the phone for 20 minutes, giving them like all the details that they wanted whilst I was away in St. Maurice on my holiday. I come back and it still hasn't been sorted out. And, the process of just having to chase up all the time is one of the things that I've been a little frustrated with in Dubai. Like the other day, for example, I'll be honest, it was in the St. Regis Hotel downstairs. I was waiting 2 hours for sparkling water. It doesn't usually happen, but it can happen from time to time. And again, it's because, like I say, unfortunately, some of these people just haven't had access to the same education system that we have. For example, in the UK, we have a strong education system. And again, you have to be considerate and kind and courteous to these people, because I always say that these people are just trying to make a living and they're just trying to do the best they can with the tools and resources they have available to them at any given time. So, like, we must take that into consideration. So, yeah, always be kind is the message. But sometimes, like, if you're coming from the UK and you're used to that kind of service, sometimes you may get into Dubai and you may be a little bit disappointed at times. But generally speaking, with that being said, like, especially in like the top restaurants and stuff here, like, the service is generally very good. So with that being said, and without digressing, again, the whole banking thing, like with the personal banking with Fab Abu Dhabi, like, I've not had the best experience, but with Emirates MBD it was great. And like I said, the Sky Rewards card that I've got is exceptional as well, because I pay for everything using my Sky Reward cards, which builds up all my air miles so I can fly business class and first class for free most of the time, which is great. Now, in terms of the business banking and the banking structure for business, when I first set up the business banking, like, it took like 4 months. You need a ton of documentation. I'm going to create a separate video on how to set up a company in the UAE, because there's tons of documentation that you need and just don't have time to go through it all in this video. It'll be too long and it'll be exhaustive. So I'm going to do a separate video on that. But kind of from like a high level, like, business banking here can take like a few months to set up. It's not a quick process. And for me, when I was bringing like holdings across from the UK, they'd done like a ton of due diligence. Like, they wanted 12 months of bank statements. They wanted like proof of funds, all of those things. But the checks are really onerous at the start. So, like, I was getting asked for the same documents 4 or 5 times. And I was told that that's pretty normal, because they just want to check that you're legitimate, you're not a robot, and all of these sorts of things for compliance reasons. So you have to have a lot of patience in the beginning when you're setting up your business banking. It can take, like I say, up to 4 months to get everything approved from end to end with your documentation, going through the whole banking compliance, doing all the due diligence checks, anti-money laundering checks, and everything that the KYC regulations that the banks have to do over here as well. But once that happens, like, okay, like, maybe the first couple of payments might get frozen, transactions will get frozen. You send the invoice so that they can see it's a legitimate transaction. And once they get used to the way that your business works, like, after that, it's been seamless, to be fair. But I use Emirates MBD. I have a relationship manager. There's different tiers. So I would say, like, in my opinion and in my experience, like, definitely make sure you get a relationship manager if you can. So bring enough money to Dubai that you can get a relationship manager. I think the starting deposit is 500,000 dirhams, which is about 100-ish, 120k of capital that you must bring and leave on deposit in the account at any time to be given a relationship manager with Emirates MBD. So my advice would be to make sure that you put enough in the account so that you can get that relationship manager, because they will help you when things go wrong. And sometimes things do go wrong. For example, like, we had international payments coming in and they didn't arrive for like 2 or 3 days, and we needed to check things. We needed to send Swiss transfer statements, bit codes, etc., etc. So just having that like relationship manager is quite helpful, I found. But in terms of that, it's been pretty straightforward. The Emirates MBD banking app, like being honest, like the mobile app is terrible. Like it's super slow. That is something that's super frustrating. The online portal is pretty good, not too bad at all. Actually, I quite like it. To be fair, it takes a bit of getting used to. My banking in the UK is with Lloyd's, which is obviously good. I still have those accounts, but getting used to the Emirates MBD online business banking was different. Let's say it wasn't a challenge; it was just different. But actually, it's not a bad system at all, and I'll kind of rate it like 7 out of 10. Can be quite slow at times to send payments, but the mobile banking app, like that's the biggest problem for me. Like trying to send payments quickly, like takes ages. So you always need to jump onto a desktop and get on the laptop or a desktop with good Wi-Fi. Otherwise, like you're going to struggle. Like just try and do it like when I'm traveling, like on even Wi-Fi or data through the mobile banking app can sometimes be like 20-30 minutes just to approve one transaction, which is just too long. So I don't use it for that. So that would be my overview of banking here. Now, the next thing, like tax benefits. Okay, so like obviously, Dubai is a tax haven. There's many tax benefits, and you only pay 9% corporation tax at the moment. Now, if you're in the free zone like I am, you may still be classified for 0% corporation tax, depending on the business that you are. So they've made it really complex, actually, so it's subjective. So I can't tell you whether you're going to be 0 or 9% if you're watching this video. Typically speaking, just allow yourself 9% corporation tax. Now that's coming this year in 2024. So we've got 9% corporation tax, but there's still 0% income tax and 0% VAT in the free zone on international payments. If you're in the mainland Dubai, you pay 5% VAT. So the maximum tax you're going to pay is 9 plus 5 is 14%. For me right now, it's 0%. I pay 0% corporation tax, 0% income tax, and 0% VAT. I'll always be 0% VAT and 0% income tax as of now. Because again, Dubai doesn't have income tax. I don't believe they're ever going to bring in income tax, even though there's talks, but I just don't think they'll do it. And on the VAT, like because international transfer, and we do most of our business from Dubai internationally, mainly into the UK, we don't pay VAT on those transactions, so that's 0%. And then maybe we'll get 9% corporation tax, but I'm just still trying to work out with my consultants at the moment here and legal team whether we're going to have to pay the 9% corporation tax or not. As it stands, as at the moment with the categories, I don't think we do. So at the moment for me, the good news is it's 0% tax. So I mean that's just an outrageous advantage, right? Because in the UK I was paying 25% corporation tax, 20% VAT on all invoices in the consulting business, and then 45% on a dividend tax. If you add all those up, it's up to 90%. If you're saving that 90, and even if you had to pay 9, you're saving 81% difference. 81% better off. That's why I said at the start of the video, the cost of the living actually feels quite cheap for me to be in Dubai, because I'm saving over 7 figures a year in taxes, and therefore, the little bit extra I pay on living expenses, maybe I pay in UK maybe 6, 7, here I'm paying 12, 13. That's 72,000 difference against the £1,000,000 in tax that I save. As an example, you can do the maths, you're still 920 odd K better off, right? So, it's all relative, and you'll have to work out in your subjective situation whether it makes sense for you. Moving on then, so climate in Dubai. So listen, one of the other reasons why I moved to Dubai, I like the beach, I like to lay in the sun, I like to chill at the pool and stuff and go to the beach clubs. So the lifestyle here, the way of living, the life, like it is amazing. It's truly exceptional. Like I do work really, really hard Monday through Friday, but at the weekend I do go out, I relax at the pool, the beach, and go to the beach clubs and stuff and try and, just relax. And just being able to lay in the sun, even every day, getting up as part of my morning routine, going to the gym, having my ice bath, getting in the sun for like half an hour before I start my day, like that way of life is just better for long-term health. So that's like the climate's really good in terms of that. Obviously, like October through to like May, the weather's really great, like between 25 to 32 degrees. Humidity levels are quite low. Humidity in October is still a little high, to be fair, but definitely November through to May, like you're going to have a great time here. The climate's amazing. It's perfect, actually. You can definitely get a great suntan, and you can relax in luxury. So there's not much that many people wouldn't like about Dubai in terms of climate. But from May through to September, like it changes drastically. Like humidity levels are sky high. You're between 40 degrees and 55 degrees even in heat, and it's just unbearable, to be fair. Last year I did the summer in Dubai, and it was pretty taxing. However, with that being said, like you can still go out and you can still like do the things you need to do. Like at nighttime I suffered more than in the day, to be honest, because at night, like if you want to go out and just sit outside and you're dressed in like a shirt or something, or even a t-shirt, like within 30 seconds you're going to be drenched. So that's not like nice. That puts you off. So those are some of the disadvantages. Like the best recommendation I can give you is like between May and September, like most of us do, is to try and find another location that will work, maybe even in Europe during the summer months where the temperatures are better, or Bali or Thailand or something like that. A lot of people travel from Dubai to Bali, Thailand, Europe in the summer months because it's just too hot here. In terms of one of the bad parts of the climate, other than the summer months, one of the bad parts of the climate here is like the air quality isn't great. We are living in a desert. There isn't much nature. It doesn't rain unless they force it to rain via cloud seeding, and the air quality is not great. So I'm not sure about the health implications that it has on long-term living and all of those things, but I don't know. For now, like, I'm only 33 years old, so air quality right now doesn't affect me too much. Maybe as I get older, it'll become a consideration. But for now, the overall, my general consensus of the climate in Dubai, it's really nice. You just don't have much nature and much greenery. But what do you expect? You are living in a desert, and every choice has a consequence. And the choice that I made to live in a desert, the consequence is that obviously there's not much greenery. But they are still trying to put like lots of greenery in, and they do like have lots of sprinkler systems and water filtration systems, and obviously they do cloud seeding as well. So they are trying to make it more green and more naturistic, but you're never going to be like Bali or Thailand where, you know, you've got a lot more nature. So yeah, it's just like I said, we're living in a desert, so what to expect. Okay, so a last couple of points to really bring this video to conclusion about my time in Dubai, my experience. So religion, culture, and debunking some myths, because I think that a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about Dubai in the past, and obviously Dubai has moved on a lot since then and transcended significantly, so I just want to address those as well. So in terms of religion, like obviously there are a lot of locals that live in Dubai, but 95% of the population that is in Dubai is actually expats. So in terms of like the local culture and the local religion, like whereas before it was quite strict around religion beliefs, where for example women needed to be fully clothed and nothing was able to be on show, like that's very different now, right? So like women are on the beach in bikinis and stuff, and it's like a lot more westernized. The second thing around religion, which ties into a myth, is like public affection. So before I came to Dubai, a lot of people would tell me that, hey, when you go to Dubai, like you can't hold hands with your girlfriend or um, anything like that, or your wife or your partner, or your significant other, and you can't like kiss in public and stuff. Well, that's not so true. So like, you know, a lot of people like I see like they're holding hands, like you can be affectionate in public, but not overly affectionate. So like a kiss on the cheek, for example, or a peg would be fine, but like, you know, making out in public is not acceptable, which I think is like fair and reasonable and valid, but it's not like you can't like show any affection in public. You can, you just need to be respectful of the culture. And like the other thing is as well, like, you know, when you go to the mall, like for example, like I don't think it's probably acceptable for like women to wear like low cut tops with like super short shorts and everything on show. Like you need to be respectable, but you don't need to like be fully clothed at all, like, and like cover everything up. Like that's a common myth as well. And then like in terms of like the religion, like most of the locals pray on Friday. So where Friday used to be their rest day, like they used to work Monday to Thursday, Friday and Saturday off, but actually in Dubai now it's a lot more westernized, and so they actually follow the normal routine of Monday through Friday, and Saturday and Sunday is off, right? So like even though like Friday is the day where they pray, it's not like a rest day anymore, like a significant, like what they would call a holy day where Fridays is off. They pray on a Friday, and that's about as far as it goes. Like in terms of like culture, like the culture is amazing. Like it's actually like so positive. Like there's lots of successful people here, and I think that's what I love: the networking opportunities, the like-minded individuals that you meet. Like it's such an inspiring place to live and work. Like genuinely is. Like everyone's wanting you to win. Everyone's happy for you. It's a safe place as well. Like you can go out with your Rolex, your Patek, you know, you can drive a nice car, your Lamborghini, whatever, and nobody really judges you. Like you don't feel like you're at risk of being mugged or anything like that, or your safety is at risk. Where obviously in the UK, like if you have like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, like because it's not the typical car that people drive and it's not normal, like you stand out, you've got a Rolex, you might get robbed and stuff. Like all of those things mean that the UK is like a lot more risky for a high net worth individual in terms of like living, and you have to worry about people breaking into your home and all of those things. So you need security cameras, gates, etc. Whereas in Dubai, honestly, you could leave your apartment open, you could leave your Lamborghini with the keys in it, and no one's going to take your stuff because the police are really well respected here, and you just don't mess around in Dubai. And I honestly think the reason that it's like that is because there's a lot of high net worths hanging around in the same place, so nobody needs to be jealous and envious. Because honestly, if you're doing well in Dubai, the next person's doing way better than you, right? So it's actually very humbling at the same time as well. Even though it's quite a surreal place to live because there just is so much wealthier, it means that that creates a culture and environment of like-minded people living in the same space where actually when you see a Lamborghini go past or a Ferrari or whatever it might be, Maserati, Bugatti, like it's normal. It's not like, oh, wow, look at that car. Like everybody's driving these things here, right? And so like that probably creates more of a place of feeling comfortable if you're a high net worth individual. Like you don't feel like your belongings that are like nice are at risk of getting stolen or something happening to them. Where I have like a really like a good friend of mine, he's a high net worth individual, and he was like living in Manchester, and he said like when he used to drive his Lamborghini, like everybody would look at him, judge him, like, and he would be like really worried on a daily basis, like people are like pointing him out. So you know that's not like a nice way to live, and that culture in the UK, that stigma of like judgment and people like putting you down and being negative towards like people that do well and are financially successful, that just doesn't happen here. So the culture is great in terms of like the positivity, which goes hand in hand, I think, with the morals of the religion that's taught over here, and the way that it just is in the Arabic world and the culture. And like I said, that the police are super well respected over here, and like they just don't take any shit. Whereas in the UK, I fundamentally believe that the laws are too weak, and actually there's not enough deterrence for people to like not do these things anymore. You know, people will get put in prison for life for murdering someone and come out after 5 years, right? Like it just doesn't feel like the UK has a strong system anymore. Being honest, it's a weak system, and I think people take advantage of that because actually the enforcement and the law in the UK is weak compared to like a country like Dubai. The laws are very strong, and you just don't mess around in Dubai. Like it's run by very significant people, and if they don't like you, they're going to make your life very difficult, and it's not going to be a good place to be. So you just want to keep on the right side, and you just want to do things amicably, go about your day, and don't do things that you're not supposed to do, and then life is going to be good. And in my opinion, that's how life should be, right? All of those things, that theft, robbery, all of those, none of those things are good, and you should be punished for it. And I fully support the UAE and their strong stance towards that. And that's what I love about living in Dubai. It's super safe, especially for women. They can go out at night and like nothing's going to happen to them. They're not going to be bothered and pestered like potentially they would be, to be honest, in the UK. So that's like culturally, like I love all of those points, and I think, like I say, it ties into the religion and the culture. But you know, it's very westernized now, so it's not like, you know, the whole thing where you can't have alcohol, you can't like you know, be affectionate in public. You can, just to moderation, right? Obviously there's a limit to it, but it's much more balanced, much more westernized now, and you can get alcohol if you've got a license. You can actually get alcohol from a shop, for example, and you can get alcohol from restaurants, hotels. It's all readily available. Obviously the things that you shouldn't do in Dubai: don't do drugs, don't try and come and sell drugs. You'll be in a lot of trouble. Like it's not what you want to be doing here. It's not like the UK where there's a lot of drug dealers, to be honest, and it's quite weak again, and they're not penalised that heavily, and most of the stuff goes under the radar. It's not like that here. Like you cannot sell drugs, you cannot take drugs, and you know, again, I obviously am an advocate of supporting not to do those things, but you know, it's much more harsh in Dubai. If you are found to be doing those things, you'll just be kicked out of the country. Even to the point of like, just like what we would classify as road rage in the UK, which, you know, happens a lot. Like when I was living in the UK, you would often see like people getting frustrated with each other on the road, and maybe people swearing at each other. Like it happens. Whereas if you did that in Dubai, like I had a story my friend was telling me in the gym the other day, like this guy, he ended up swearing at somebody, just putting his middle finger up, and they reported his number plate, and then the guy got deported straight back. So like they just have a zero tolerance policy. Like they just don't take any nonsense. They don't take any shit. And to be honest, I love that. That's what I love about Dubai, and that's what's great for the culture. So yeah, those are all of the things about my experience in Dubai of living here over the last year. The conclusion is I absolutely love Dubai. It's definitely going to be a place where I'm going to base myself long term. I'll probably end up traveling during the summer months between May and September. I'll keep you updated on where I decide to go during that period. But yeah, and the only other thing to consider, again, if you are a UK resident and you want to come to Dubai and pay zero taxes, you just need to make sure you declare yourself as a non-UK resident, get a good accountant to help you, and you can only do 45 days in the UK or 90 days, depending on the number of restrictions you have. For me, it's 45 days for the first 2 years. At year 3, it's 90 days. But for most people, it's going to be between 45 and 90 days. You're only allowed to do in the UK. You must spend at least 270 days plus outside of the UK, depending on your tax status and ties to the UK, and you'll need a chartered accountant to help you work through those things with a tax consultant. But hopefully you found this video useful. If you have any comments or questions about Dubai, please feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to go in and answer those for you based on my experience of living here. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the content and ring the bell icon so you can be notified for any updates and any new content that we deliver on a weekly basis. All right, see you in the next one.